Shadow's piercing bark echoes through the dense forest, his powerful body trembling, not from exhaustion, but from desperate urgency. Sarah Mitchell watches her Belgian Malinois frantically pawing at the ground near an ancient oak tree, and in that moment she knows this isn't just another search and rescue mission. What they're about to discover in these woods will unravel a mystery that has haunted their small town of Pine Valley for over 2 decades, and it all started with a child's cry in the darkness. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The autumn wind whispers through the trees of the Blackridge Forest, carrying with it the faint sound of helicopter blades in the distance. Sarah adjusts her rescue gear, watching Shadow's behavior with growing concern. In their 5 years of working together on the Pine Valley Search and Rescue Team, she's never seen him this agitated. His usually focused demeanor has been replaced by something more primal, more urgent. The 6-year-old boy they're searching for has been missing for 12 hours now, but Shadow's reaction suggests they're dealing with something far more complex than a simple rescue operation. 15 hours earlier, Sarah had been finishing her shift at the local veterinary clinic when the call came in. Tommy Anderson, age 6, had wandered away from a family hiking trip along the notorious Devil's Ridge Trail, the same trail that had claimed 5 lives in the past decade, the same wilderness that held secrets some locals whispered were better left buried. But Sarah knew better. Every second counted in a missing child case, especially with the bitter cold front moving in. As Sarah follows Shadow deeper into the increasingly dense forest, her mind drifts back to the day she first met him. A traumatized military dog returned from Afghanistan, deemed too damaged for service. The shelter had warned her that Shadow suffered from severe PTSD, that his combat experiences had left him unsuitable for civilian life. But something in those intense amber eyes spoke to her soul, reminded her of her own battles with post-traumatic stress after losing her younger brother in these very woods 18 years ago. The memory of that day still haunts her. The massive search operation, the hundreds of volunteers, the hope that gradually faded into desperation. Michael had been only 8 when he disappeared without a trace, leaving behind nothing but his favorite red baseball cap hanging from a branch near Devil's Ridge. The investigation eventually went cold, becoming just another dark chapter in Pine Valley's history. Sarah had sworn then that she would dedicate her life to ensuring no other family would experience that same helpless agony. Shadow's rehabilitation hadn't been easy. For months he would wake in terror, haunted by memories of IED explosions and firefights. Sarah spent countless nights on the floor beside his bed, her presence slowly helping him rebuild trust in humans. Together, they healed each other. She taught him to channel his military training into search and rescue work, while he gave her a purpose that helped ease the guilt of surviving when her brother hadn't. Their breakthrough came during a spring flood 2 years ago. Shadow had detected the scent of an elderly dementia patient who had wandered away from his care facility, leading rescuers through treacherous terrain to find the man hypothermic but alive. That success marked the beginning of their reputation as Pine Valley's most effective search and rescue team, with a track record that seemed almost supernatural, but today feels different. Shadow's behavior has shifted from his usual methodical search pattern to something more desperate. He keeps circling back to the same area, his whines becoming more insistent with each pass. Sarah's trained eye notices subtle changes in the forest floor. Broken twigs, disturbed leaf litter, signs that someone small passed through recently. The vegetation here is unusually dense, creating a natural barrier that most hikers would avoid. "Shadow, what is it, boy?" Sarah whispers, her flashlight beam cutting through the growing darkness. The dog's ears prick forward, his body tensing as he catches a sound that human ears can't detect. Suddenly, he bolts forward with such force that Sarah nearly loses her grip on his tracking harness. They burst through a thick patch of undergrowth into a small clearing, and Sarah's heart stops. There, huddled against the massive trunk of an ancient oak tree, is a small figure in a blue jacket. Tommy Anderson, alive but shivering violently. Sarah's relief is immediate but short-lived as she realizes Shadow isn't focused on the boy. Instead, the dog is frantically digging at the ground nearby, his powerful paws throwing dirt and leaves aside with desperate intensity. "Base, this is Mitchell," Sarah calls into her radio, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "We've found Tommy Anderson. Coordinates to follow. Send medical support immediately." She wraps her emergency blanket around the boy, checking his vital signs, while keeping one eye on Shadow's increasingly frenzied digging. Tommy's voice is weak but clear. The ground was crying. Sarah feels a chill that has nothing to do with the temperature. "I followed the crying, but then I got scared and couldn't find my way back." Shadow's claws scrape against something solid, something that doesn't belong in these woods. Sarah's flashlight reveals a glint of metal beneath the soil, and her blood runs cold. A rusty latch attached to what appears to be a heavy wooden door built into the hillside, completely hidden by years of natural growth. But what stops her? Heart entirely is the small red baseball cap partially buried beside it, identical to the one Michael had been wearing the day he disappeared. As she stares at this impossible discovery, Sarah realizes that finding Tommy isn't the end of this story. It's only the beginning. Shadow's urgent barks echo through the darkening forest, carrying a message that will shake their small town to its core. Some mysteries refuse to stay buried, and sometimes it takes a child's innocent wandering to uncover the darkest of truths. The sound of approaching rescue teams grows louder, but Sarah barely notices. Her hand trembles as she reaches for the radio again, knowing that what they've found here will change everything, not just for her and Shadow, but for every family in Pine Valley who has ever lost someone to these woods. The story that's about to unfold will test not only their skills as rescuers, but also their understanding of justice, healing, and the unexpected ways that fate chooses to reveal its deepest secrets. The floodlights from rescue vehicles cast long shadows through the trees as Sarah stands guard over their discovery. Tommy Anderson has been safely evacuated, wrapped in warm blankets and reunited with his tearful parents, but Shadow refuses to leave the site. The Belgian Malinois maintains his vigilant position by the hidden door, his muscular frame tense with purpose, as if understanding the gravity of what lies beneath. Detective Marcus Rodriguez arrives with the forensics team, his weathered face grave as he surveys the scene. Having served Pine Valley Police Department for 25 years, he's one of the few remaining officers who worked on Michael's original missing persons case. Sarah watches his expression shift from professional detachment to shocked recognition as he spots the red baseball cap. "We need to do this right," he says, his voice barely above a whisper. "Whatever we find here could solve more than just your brother's case. His words hang heavy in the air, reminding Sarah of the other unsolved disappearances that have plagued their region over the years. 3 other children had vanished within a 50-mile radius during the same period as Michael, their cases growing cold despite extensive investigations. The forensics team works with painstaking precision, documenting every detail before attempting to open the door. Shadow stays close to Sarah, occasionally pressing against her leg when her breathing becomes too rapid, his training as a therapy dog kicking in despite the intensity of the situation. It's moments like these when Sarah marvels at his intuition. How a dog once considered too damaged for service has become not just a rescuer, but a healer. As the team carefully removes years of accumulated soil and vegetation, Sarah's mind drifts to the day she decided to leave her promising career as an environmental lawyer to pursue search and rescue work. Her colleagues had called it a trauma response, a way of coping with her brother's loss. But Shadow had shown her it was more than that. It was about transformation, about turning personal tragedy into purpose. The memory of their first successful rescue floods back, a 3-year-old girl with autism who had wandered into the woods during a summer storm. While other search teams had relied on traditional grid patterns, Shadow had demonstrated an almost supernatural ability to read the terrain, following invisible traces that led them to the child huddled in a hollow log. The girl's mother had called them angels, but Sarah knew the real miracle was how saving others had slowly begun to save them. Detective Rodriguez's sharp intake of breath snaps Sarah back to the present. The door has finally been cleared, revealing a padlocked steel entrance set into the hillside. The lock itself is heavily rusted, but the construction is sophisticated. This was no abandoned mine shaft or forgotten root cellar. Someone had invested time and resources into keeping this place hidden. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Stand back, Rodriguez orders, as the forensics team prepares to cut through the lock. Shadow's ears prick forward, his body tensing as the metal finally gives way with a harsh groan. The door opens to reveal a narrow tunnel, its walls reinforced with timber supports that disappear into darkness. The air that escapes carries the musty scent of long-buried secrets. Sarah feels her heart pounding as she clips a body camera to her vest. Standard procedure requires waiting for the full forensics team, but Shadow is already moving forward, his training making it clear if there's any chance of finding survivors, time is critical. Detective Rodriguez nods his understanding, and together they follow the dog into the tunnel, their flashlight beams creating eerie shadows on the earthen walls. The passage extends roughly 30 feet before opening into a larger chamber. Sarah's flashlight reveals what appears to be a crude living space, a small cot, shelves stocked with preserved food, and most disturbingly, a wall covered in newspaper clippings. Shadow moves methodically through the space, his nose working continuously, while Sarah forces herself to document everything with her body camera. The newspaper articles span decades, not just the local disappearances, but similar cases from across the country. Some are connected with red string, others marked with cryptic notes in cramped handwriting. Sarah's hands shake as she recognizes Michael's school photo among them, connected to a map of the Blackridge Forest trail system, but it's what Shadow discovers in the corner that changes everything. Behind a heavy cabinet, partially hidden by debris, they find a stack of small notebooks. Detective Rodriguez pulls on gloves before carefully opening the top one, revealing pages of detailed observations written in the same cramped handwriting as the wall notes. Names, dates, locations, a meticulous record spanning over 20 years. "This isn't just about Michael," Rodriguez says quietly, his flashlight beam illuminating page after page of entries. "This is bigger than we imagined. Someone's been using these woods as a hunting ground for decades." Shadow suddenly freezes, his attention fixed on a section of the far wall. His behavior shifts from investigative to alert, the same intensity he shows when detecting a live scent. Sarah has learned to trust these moments implicitly. Shadow's instincts have never been wrong. Careful examination reveals a second door, this one better concealed than the entrance. As Rodriguez calls for backup, Sarah feels her pulse quicken. Shadow's behavior suggests there might be someone on the other side, but whether victim or perpetrator, they can't be sure. The next few moments blur into a cascade of action. The backup team arrives, the door is breached, and they discover a series of additional chambers extending deeper into the hillside. Each room reveals more evidence: clothing, personal effects, photographs, pieces of a dark puzzle that has haunted multiple communities for years. But Shadow isn't interested in the evidence. He leads them to the furthest chamber, where his behavior becomes increasingly urgent. Behind a false wall, they find something that defies all expectations. A hidden emergency radio system still operational, monitoring police frequencies across 3 states. And beside it, a map marked with dozens of locations, some circled in red, others crossed out in black. "He's still out there," Rodriguez breathes, studying the recent dates marked on the map. "This isn't just a historical discovery. We've stumbled onto an active operation." Sarah feels a complex mix of emotions wash over her. The hope of finally learning Michael's fate mingles with the horrifying realization that their discovery has only revealed the tip of something far more sinister. Shadow presses against her leg again, grounding her in the present moment, reminding her that they're not powerless in the face of this evil. As more investigators arrive and the site becomes a full crime scene, Sarah steps outside to catch her breath. The dawn is breaking over the Blackridge Forest, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold that seem at odds with the darkness they've uncovered. Shadow follows, his vigilant eyes scanning the trees as if he knows their work is far from over. A small crowd has gathered at the police perimeter, families of the missing, drawn by the news that something has been found in the woods. Sarah recognizes the look in their eyes, the desperate hope mixed with fear of what might be revealed. She's carried that same look for 18 years. Tommy Anderson's father breaks through the police line, running toward her with tears in his eyes. "You saved my son," he chokes out, dropping to his knees to hug Shadow. "But it's more than that, isn't it? You've found something that could help all of these families." Sarah looks at the gathered crowd, then back at the hidden entrance that has concealed so many secrets. Shadow sits alertly at her side, ready for whatever comes next. She realizes that this is why they were meant to find each other, not just to rescue the lost, but to uncover the truth that might finally bring healing to so many. Detective Rodriguez emerges from the tunnel, his face set with determination. "We're going to need your help," he tells Sarah and Shadow. "This investigation is going to take us down paths we never expected. What you two discovered here today, it's just the beginning." as the morning light strengthens. Sarah watches. Shadow's ears prick toward the forest, his posture suggesting he's caught something beyond human perception. She's learned to trust these moments, knowing that sometimes the path to justice isn't straight or clear, but requires following instincts that transcend ordinary understanding. The red baseball cap rests in an evidence bag nearby, a reminder of where this journey began. But as Sarah looks at the families gathered beyond the police tape, at Shadow's alert presence beside her, at the determined faces of the investigation team, she knows that this isn't just about finding answers anymore. It's about preventing future tragedies, about turning a place of darkness into a source of hope. Shadow's discovery has set in motion events that will change not just Pine Valley, but potentially bring closure to countless families across the country. As the sun rises fully over the Blackridge Forest, Sarah clips on Shadow's tracking harness. Whatever darkness still lurks in these woods, whatever secrets remain to be uncovered, they'll face it together, a wounded warrior and his equally wounded handler, transformed by love and purpose into something extraordinary. Hunters of truth, bearers of light, guardians of the lost. 3 days after the discovery in Blackridge Forest, Sarah sits in the Pine Valley Police Department's conference room, surrounded by walls covered in evidence photos and timeline charts. Shadow lies at her feet, his eyes fixed on the door as federal agents come and go, each bringing new pieces to the expanding investigation. The hidden bunker has yielded far more than anyone expected. Evidence linking to cold cases across 12 states, spanning over 2 decades. Dr. Elena Martinez, the FBI's leading forensic psychologist, spreads out another set of documents. Across the table. "What your dog led us to," she says, studying Shadow with evident admiration. "It's unprecedented, the level of detail in these records. It's like finding a serial predator's playbook." She pauses, her expression softening as she looks at Sarah. "But more than that, it's giving us a chance to prevent future crimes." Sarah absently strokes Shadow's head, remembering how different things had been just 5 years ago. Back then, she'd been drowning in grief, struggling to make it through each day. The decision to adopt a traumatized military dog had seemed foolish to many. How could someone barely holding herself together hope to rehabilitate a dog with severe PTSD? A commotion in the hallway draws their attention. Tommy Anderson's. Parents have arrived for their follow-up interview, but this time they're not alone. Behind them walks a tall man in his 30s, his face hauntingly familiar to Sarah. It takes her a moment to recognize him. James Cooper, one of the survivors of a kidnapping attempt in these same woods 15 years ago. He'd managed to escape, but his testimony had been dismissed as too fantastic to be believable. "I heard about what you found," James says, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. "All these years, people thought I was crazy. They said I imagined the underground room, the maps on the walls, the radio equipment. They told me I was just confused, traumatized." He kneels down to Shadow's level, earning a gentle tail wag from the dog. "But your partner here, he found the proof. Finally someone believed." Shadow's journey from wounded warrior to hero hadn't been smooth. Sarah remembers the countless nights spent helping him through panic attacks, the setbacks, when loud noises would trigger his combat trauma, the daily challenge of rebuilding his trust in humans. But through it all, there had been moments of breakthrough that showed the extraordinary spirit within him. Dr. Martinez organizes the latest forensic reports, her face grave but determined. The radio monitoring system you discovered was still actively tracking police frequencies across 3 states. Based on the recent logs, we believe the perpetrator has multiple similar facilities. He's been using the forest system like a web, with strategically placed safe houses throughout the region. Sarah feels a chill run down her spine as she studies the map they've reconstructed from the bunker evidence. Red marks indicate known locations, but there are dozens of question marks, potential sites yet to be discovered. Shadow seems to sense her unease, pressing closer against her leg in a gesture of comfort. James steps forward, pointing to a section of the map. "Here," he says, his finger tracing a pattern of trails. "This is where he first grabbed me. I remember the rock formation, looked like a sleeping bear, but I got away because of a dog, just like yours." His voice catches. "A stray that had been living in the woods. It attacked him, gave me the chance to run. Never saw that dog again, but I've never forgotten." The revelation hits Sarah like a physical force. She remembers something from Shadow's military records, a note about him being found as a puppy near an American base in Afghanistan, already displaying protective instincts toward the soldiers. Some dogs, it seemed, were born with an innate drive to protect the innocent. Detective Rodriguez enters the room, carrying a laptop. "You need to see this," he says, setting it up quickly. "We've been analyzing the pattern of disappearances against Shadow's search grid during previous rescues. There's something remarkable." The screen shows a map overlay, with Shadow's rescue paths marked in blue against the known criminal activity sites in red. Your dog wasn't just finding lost hikers, he was systematically sweeping areas where victims had been taken, almost like he knew. Dr. Martinez leans forward, intrigued. "Military dogs are trained to recognize patterns of human movement, to detect disturbances in the environment that most humans would miss. Is it possible that Shadow has been picking up on signs of the perpetrator's activity all along?" Sarah thinks back to all their successful rescues, how Shadow would sometimes insist on searching areas that seemed unlikely, only to find crucial evidence or save lives. She'd attributed it to his training, but now she wonders if it was something more, an instinctive understanding of the darkness that lurked in these woods and a determination to combat it. Tommy Anderson's mother, who has been quietly listening, suddenly speaks up. "When your dog found Tommy, my son said something about the ground crying. We thought he was just confused from being lost, but—" She pulls out her phone, showing a child's drawing Tommy had made after his rescue. It depicts the hidden door in the hillside, but with something remarkable. Musical notes drawn, floating from the ground. Dr. Martinez's eyes widen. Sound carries differently underground. If there were other chambers, other victims. She turns to Sarah. "We need to expand the search. Your dog's ability to detect subtle environmental changes could be crucial." James stands straighter, a new purpose in his stance. "I want to help. I've spent 15 years trying to forget what happened in those woods. Maybe it's time to use those memories to save others." Shadow's ears prick forward at the change in energy in the room. Sarah has learned to read his subtle cues. He's not just responding to their emotions. He's ready for action. This is what both of them were meant to do, not despite their trauma, but because of it. Their wounds have given them an understanding of darkness that makes them uniquely qualified to fight it. As if on cue, Rodriguez's phone buzzes with an alert. "A Child has gone missing near the state border, in an area marked with a question mark on their map. Time is critical, but now they have something they didn't have before: knowledge, evidence, and a team united by purpose. Sarah clips on Shadow's tracking harness, feeling the familiar surge of focus and determination. Around them, the team mobilizes. Federal agents coordinate with local law enforcement. James offers his crucial first-hand knowledge, and Dr. Martinez prepares to profile the locations most likely to hold new evidence. But it's Tommy's drawing that stays in Sarah's mind as they head out, those musical notes rising from the ground. Sometimes the most profound truths come from the innocent, those pure souls who can hear the earth's pain and aren't afraid to speak of it. Shadow's power has always been similar, an ability to sense what others miss, to hear the silent cries for help. As they load up their gear, Sarah catches her reflection in the window. She barely recognizes herself. The broken woman who once couldn't imagine a future beyond her grief has been transformed. Beside her, Shadow stands tall, his traumatic past now a source of strength rather than weakness. Together, they've become something more than just a search and rescue team. The sun is setting over the Blackridge Forest as they deploy, casting long shadows through the trees. But shadows don't frighten them anymore. They've learned that darkness is where light is needed most. With each step into the woods, they carry with them the hopes of countless families, the strength of survivors like James, and the pure wisdom of children like Tommy, who remind us that sometimes the deepest truths are heard not with our ears, but with our hearts. Shadow leads the way, his powerful form moving with purpose through the gathering dusk. He is no longer just a rescued military dog, and Sarah is no longer just a grieving sister. They have become guardians of the lost, voices for the silenced, and proof that the deepest wounds can become the greatest gifts, if we have the courage to use them in service of others. The night air carries a bitter chill as Sarah and Shadow lead the search team through the dense forest near the state border. 8-year-old Emily Chen has been missing for 6 hours, last seen near her family's campsite at Falcon Ridge State Park. The location matches one of the question marks on their map, and Sarah can feel Shadow's heightened alertness. He senses the connection. FBI tactical teams move in parallel formations, their infrared equipment scanning the darkness, but Sarah trusts Shadow's instincts more than any technology. His military training, combined with their years of search and rescue work, has honed his abilities to near supernatural levels. Tonight, those skills might mean the difference between life and death. James Cooper moves quietly beside them, his face set with determination. Since joining the investigation, his intimate knowledge of the perpetrator's methods has proved invaluable. "The terrain here," he whispers, studying the rocky outcroppings. "It's similar to where he took me. Natural caves modified for his purposes, easy to defend, multiple escape routes." Shadow suddenly freezes, his head lifting as he catches a scent on the wind. Sarah has learned to read every subtle shift in his body language. This isn't just the trail of their missing girl. He's detected something else, something that makes his muscles tense with recognition. The same reaction he had at the first bunker. Dr. Martinez's voice crackles over the radio. Movement detected on thermal imaging, half a mile northeast. Multiple heat signatures underground. Sarah feels her pulse quicken. They're not just looking for Emily anymore. They might have stumbled onto another active site. As they advance through the darkness, Sarah's mind drifts to the morning's briefing. Emily's disappearance fits the pattern they've uncovered. Children taken from areas where the natural landscape provides cover for underground facilities. But this time, they're not working from decades-old evidence. This time, they have a chance to stop it as it happens. Shadow leads them to a steep hillside, his nose working the ground methodically. James kneels, running his hands over the rock face. "Here," he says, pressing against a section that looks completely natural to the untrained eye. The rock's been altered, sealed with some kind of compound to make it look weathered. The tactical team moves in with their equipment, but it's Shadow who finds the trigger mechanism, a cleverly disguised pressure plate beneath a loose stone. The rock face slides away silently, revealing a passage that descends into darkness. The sophistication of the system confirms their worst fears. This isn't just a hideout, it's part of a larger network. Sarah checks Shadow's protective vest one last time before they enter. The passage ahead is narrow, forcing them to proceed single file. The air grows colder as they descend, carrying the same musty scent they encountered in the first bunker. But there's something else. A faint hum of electrical equipment. They find the first evidence of Emily's presence 20 feet in. A small hair ribbon dropped on the ground, the same one her parents described. Shadow's tail gives a single wag of confirmation as he sniffs it, then continues forward with increased urgency. He's caught her scent. The passage opens into a larger chamber filled with sophisticated surveillance equipment. Multiple monitors display feeds from cameras hidden throughout the forest above. On one screen, they can see their own tactical teams moving into position around the hillside. The perpetrator has been watching them, anticipating their every move. A sudden crash echoes from deeper within the complex, followed by a child's scream. Shadow's reaction is immediate. He lunges forward, nearly pulling the harness from Sarah's grip. But his military training holds, waiting for her command before proceeding. They've learned that rushing in without proper coordination could be fatal in these situations. The FBI team moves with precision, securing each section of the underground facility as they advance. But it's Shadow who guides them, his acute senses leading them through a maze of tunnels that seem designed to disorient intruders. Left, right, another left, each turn bringing them closer to the sounds of struggle. They burst into a large storage room just in time to see a figure disappearing through a hidden exit, dragging Emily with him. The girl's eyes are wide with terror, but she's fighting back. Another crash as she knocks over shelves of supplies, trying to slow her captor down. Her resistance gives Shadow the opening he needs. The Belgian Malinois launches forward with explosive power, crossing the room in 3 bounds. His target tries to slam a heavy door, but Shadow's training takes over. He hits the door with his shoulder, a technique learned in military breaching operations. The impact sends the door flying open, catching the kidnapper off guard. What happens next seems to unfold in slow motion. The perpetrator releases Emily, reaching for something in his jacket. But before he can draw the weapon, Shadow is on him, his powerful jaws locking onto the man's arm with controlled force, enough to subdue, not to maim. It's the perfect demonstration of his military discipline combined with his search and rescue training. Emily scrambles away as the tactical team floods in, securing the scene. But Sarah's attention is drawn to something else. Shadow's behavior has changed. Instead of maintaining his hold on the suspect, he's moving toward a section of wall, whining urgently. They've seen this before at the first bunker. He's telling them there's more to find. The evidence team discovers another hidden door, this one leading to a room that confirms their worst fears. Maps, documents, and photographs revealing the full scope of the operation. Multiple facilities across 3 states, connected by an underground network that's been growing for decades, but mixed with the horror of these discoveries is something else: hope. Each document is a piece of evidence that can bring closure to dozens of cold cases, help locate other victims, and prevent future abductions. As they escort Emily back to the surface, where her parents wait with tears of joy, Sarah watches Shadow, walking beside the girl, his protective instinct still engaged. Emily's small hand rests on his back, drawing comfort from his steady presence. Despite her ordeal, she's showing remarkable resilience, proof that even in our darkest moments, the human spirit can shine through. James meets them at the entrance, his eyes filled with a complex mix of emotions as he watches the kidnapper being led away in handcuffs. "It's really him," he says quietly, "the same man, after 15 years. He kneels down to Shadow's level. "Thank you, warrior. You've done what I couldn't do alone." Dr. Martinez is already coordinating with multiple agencies, preparing to investigate the other locations revealed in the evidence. "What you and Shadow have uncovered," she tells Sarah, "it's going to change how we approach these cases nationwide. The combination of military-trained dogs and search and rescue expertise. It's revolutionary. But Sarah's thoughts are with the families, not just Emily's parents, who are holding their daughter as if they'll never let go, but all the others who have waited years for answers. Thanks to Shadow's discovery, many of them will finally know what happened to their loved ones. It's not always the happy ending they hoped for, but truth, even painful truth, can be the first step toward healing. As the sun rises over Falcon Ridge State Park, casting golden light through the trees, Sarah watches Shadow, sitting alertly beside her. He's not the same traumatized military dog she adopted 5 years ago, and she's not the same broken woman, consumed by grief for her lost brother. Their wounds haven't disappeared, but they've been transformed into something powerful, an ability to sense darkness and a determination to combat it. Emily's father approaches, his daughter still held, tight in his arms. "Your dog," he says, his voice thick with emotion. "He's more than just a hero. He's proof that sometimes our deepest pain can become our greatest gift to others." Shadow's tail wags gently at the man's words, and Sarah realizes he's right. Every scar, every painful memory, every sleepless night has led them to this moment, where their past trauma becomes the key to preventing future tragedy. The morning light grows stronger, pushing back the shadows that have hidden so many secrets for so long. Sarah clips on Shadow's tracking harness, knowing their work is far from over. There are more locations to investigate, more families needing closure, more children to protect. But now they're not working alone. They're part of something larger, a network of survivors, professionals, and dedicated individuals, all working together to bring light to the darkness. As they prepare to move on to the next location, Sarah catches a glimpse of their reflection in a tactical vehicle's window. A woman and her dog, once broken but now made stronger by their scars, their bond forged in trauma but strengthened by purpose. They are living proof that healing doesn't just mean recovering from our wounds. It means using them to help others find their way home. 2 weeks after Emily Chen's rescue, the Pine Valley Command Center has transformed into a hub of intense activity. Walls once covered in local missing persons cases now display a complex network of locations, evidence, and connections spanning the entire country. At the center of it all, a large digital map, glows with dozens of highlighted points, each representing a potential underground facility identified through the evidence Shadow helped uncover. But today's briefing brings a new challenge. Dr. Martinez stands before the assembled team, her expression grave as she points to a series of photographs. "We've identified a pattern in the surveillance equipment found at both sites," she explains. "The technology suggests our suspect isn't working alone. There's an organization behind this, one with significant resources and reach." Shadow lies at Sarah's feet, but his ears prick forward at the sound of approaching footsteps. Through the door walks a tall, distinguished man in military uniform, Colonel David Richardson from the Special Operations Command. His presence confirms the gravity of their discoveries. "What your team has uncovered goes beyond civilian criminal enterprise," the colonel states, his voice carrying the weight of classified knowledge. "The sophistication of these facilities, the military-grade equipment, it matches patterns we've seen in international trafficking networks. But there's something else." He pauses, making eye contact with Sarah. "The training methods used in these operations, they're remarkably similar to the ones Shadow received in Afghanistan." The revelation sends a chill through the room. Sarah remembers the details of Shadow's military file, how he was found as a puppy near a base that was later discovered to have been compromised. The same base where several specialized training manuals had gone missing. James Cooper, who has become an integral part of their investigation, steps forward. "That explains something I could never understand about my captivity," he says. "The way he moved his protocols. It was like he had military training. I served 2 tours in Iraq, and I recognize some of the techniques." Dr. Martinez pulls up new satellite imagery on the main screen. "We've cross-referenced Shadow's behavior patterns during previous searches with these new locations. Look at this." The display shows heat map overlays of Shadow's search grids compared to now confirmed facility locations. He wasn't just finding lost hikers. He was systematically mapping out their network piece by piece. Sarah thinks back to all their successful rescues, seeing them in a new light. Shadow hadn't just been following standard search patterns. He'd been drawing on his earliest memories, recognizing signs that others would miss. Even as a traumatized military dog, he'd been working to expose the very organization that had tried to corrupt his training. Colonel Richardson spreads out a new set of documents. "We've identified 3 more possible locations based on Shadow's previous search patterns, but there's a complication." He points to a series of terrain photographs. "They're in areas too dangerous for conventional tactical teams. Underground cave systems, unstable mine shafts, places where traditional military operations would be too risky." Shadow rises to his feet, sensing the shift in energy in the room. Sarah has learned to trust these moments, when his military training and search and rescue instincts align to indicate a clear course of action. "He can lead us through," she says with quiet confidence. "It's what he was meant to do." The next few hours are a flurry of preparation. As they gear up for the most challenging operation of their careers, Sarah notices something remarkable. The command center has filled with a diverse group of individuals, each brought together by Shadow's discoveries. FBI agents work alongside local search and rescue volunteers. Military specialists consult with civilian cave experts. Survivors like James share their insights with tactical planners. Emily Chen's parents have arrived too, insisting on contributing to the operation that saved their daughter. Emily's father, a geological engineer, pores over cave system maps with the tactical team. Her mother, a trauma counselor, works with Dr. Martinez to develop support protocols for potential rescue victims. But it's Tommy Anderson's contribution that touches Sarah the most. The young boy has created a series of drawings, detailed sketches of what he remembers from his time in the woods. His child's perspective captures details that adults might miss. The way certain rocks were arranged, the sounds he heard underground, the patterns of light and shadow that might indicate hidden entrances. As Sarah checks Shadow's protective gear one final time, she finds herself surrounded by an unexpected family. James adjusts the tactical vest he'll wear as their guide. Dr. Martinez reviews final psychological profiles. Colonel Richardson coordinates with his special operations team. Each person represents a different piece of the puzzle, brought together by a dog who refused to let trauma define his destiny. Emily approaches Shadow, her small hand reaching out to touch his fur. Since her rescue, she's been helping other children understand what to do if they get lost. He sees the good in people, she says simply, even when they're scared and hiding. Her words carry a wisdom beyond her years, reminding everyone that healing often comes through helping others. The mission ahead is daunting. 3 locations to investigate simultaneously, each with its own unique dangers. But as Sarah looks around at their assembled team, she realizes they're no longer just fighting against darkness. They're building something new, a network of light, a community of healers and protectors, each transformed by their own struggles into something stronger. Tommy's father approaches with his son's latest drawing, a detailed map of underground passages, marked with the same musical notes he described hearing. He says, "Shadow will understand," Tommy's father explains. "Something about how the ground sings differently near the hidden places." Sarah studies the drawing, remembering how Shadow's military training included detecting subtle vibrations in the earth, signs of underground movement or hidden structures. Once again, the pure perception of a child has illuminated something profound. Sometimes the deepest truths can only be heard by those who've learned to listen with their hearts. As they move out under the cover of early evening, Sarah feels a sense of destiny. Shadow walks beside her, his powerful form moving with purposeful grace. He's no longer the broken warrior she first met, and she's no longer the woman crippled by loss. Together, they've become something more. Guides for others walking through darkness. Proof that trauma can be transformed into triumph. The sun sets behind the mountains, casting long shadows through the trees, but shadows don't frighten them anymore. They've learned that darkness is where light is needed most, and that healing often begins when we help others find their way home. Shadow leads them forward, his steps sure and strong, carrying with him the hopes of countless families and the strength of a community united by purpose. Behind them, the command center continues its work, coordinating the largest rescue operation in the region's history. But the real story isn't in the tactical plans or evidence boards. It's in the way a traumatized military dog and his equally wounded handler have sparked a movement, showing that when we transform our pain into purpose, we create ripples of hope that touch countless lives. As they disappear into the gathering dusk, Sarah knows that whatever they find in those hidden places, they're no longer fighting alone. They carry with them the strength of survivors, the wisdom of children, the dedication of professionals, and most importantly, the unshakable truth that even the deepest wounds can become gifts when used in service of others. Shadow's ears prick forward, catching sounds beyond human perception. The next chapter of their journey is about to begin, but this time they're not just searching for the lost, they're leading a revolution of light against darkness, proof that sometimes the most powerful healing comes when we help others find their way out of the shadows that once held us captive. The limestone caves of Eagle's Point loom before them in the pre-dawn light, their ancient facades hiding secrets that have waited years to be discovered. Sarah and Shadow lead the first tactical team, while James and Colonel Richardson coordinate two parallel operations at other locations. Each site represents a piece of the puzzle they've been assembling since that first discovery in Blackridge Forest. Shadow moves with heightened awareness, his training allowing him to process layers of information that human senses might miss. The morning dew has settled differently around certain rock formations, a sign of hidden heat sources below. The birdsong patterns change near specific areas, indicating concealed openings that affect air currents. These are the subtle clues that his military training taught him to recognize. Dr. Martinez's voice comes through their tactical communications. Thermal imaging shows multiple heat signatures underground. The pattern matches what we found at the previous sites, but there's something different here. The energy usage is significantly higher. Sarah feels Shadow tense beside her before she sees the reason. A fresh scuff mark on a boulder, barely noticeable to the human eye, but telling a clear story to a dog trained in tracking. Someone has been here recently, within the last few hours. The tactical team moves into position as Shadow leads them to what appears to be a solid rock face. But the dog's behavior confirms what Tommy's drawings suggested. There's more here than meets the eye. His ears prick forward at a sound too low for human hearing, the singing ground that Tommy had tried to describe. "Stand back," Colonel Richardson orders through the comm system. The team's geological expert moves forward with specialized equipment, confirming what Shadow already knows. The rock face is artificial, concealing a sophisticated entrance mechanism. As they prepare to breach, Sarah's mind flashes back to their preparation sessions with survivors like James and Emily. Each had contributed crucial details about how these facilities operated. Emily had remembered the sound of generators, helping them identify power sources. James had recalled ventilation patterns that led them to hidden exits. The breach is swift and precise. Shadow takes point, his military training seamlessly merging with his search and rescue experience. The tunnel beyond is different from the others, wider, better equipped, with signs of recent upgrades. This isn't just another outpost, it's something more significant. They encounter the first security measure 50 feet in, an advanced motion detection system that would have triggered alerts if not for Tommy's detailed drawings. His childhood perception had captured details that adult observers missed, allowing them to identify and bypass such devices. Shadow suddenly freezes, his posture shifting to alert but not aggressive. Sarah recognizes this behavior. He's detecting human presence, but not a threat. Around the next bend, they discover why. A sophisticated computer center fills a large chamber, monitors displaying surveillance feeds from multiple locations. But it's what's on the central screen that stops everyone in their tracks. Live video feeds show children, dozens of them, being moved through what appears to be an underground transport network. The timestamps are current, within the last hour. They're not just discovering evidence of past crimes, they're witnessing an active operation. Dr. Martinez's voice crackles with urgency. The other teams are reporting similar findings. This is a coordinated movement. They're trying to evacuate their entire network. Shadow's training kicks in as he detects a subtle change in air pressure. Someone is trying to seal the facility. The team moves quickly, following the dog's lead through a maze of passages. Each turn reveals more evidence of the operation's scope. Sophisticated medical equipment, education materials in multiple languages, documentation of international connections. They emerge into a larger chamber that answers questions that have haunted them for weeks. One wall is covered with military-style training manuals, the same ones that went missing from Shadow's original base in Afghanistan. But they've been modified, twisted to serve a darker purpose. The organization hasn't just been abducting children. They've been implementing a long-term program, using military techniques for devastating ends. Sarah watches Shadow process the space, knowing he recognizes these protocols from his earliest memories. But instead of triggering his trauma, the discovery seems to strengthen his resolve. He moves with increased purpose, leading them toward what his acute senses tell him is their primary target. The final chamber reveals the heart of the operation, a command center coordinating activities across multiple continents. But they haven't arrived too late. The evidence is still here. And more importantly, so are the coordinates of every transit point in their underground network. As tactical teams secure the facility, Sarah notices something remarkable about Shadow's behavior. He's not just focusing on the obvious evidence. He's systematically checking areas that others might miss. His military training, once used to detect hidden explosives, now serves to uncover crucial digital storage devices and encoded documents. Emily's father, coordinating with the Geological Survey team, makes a breakthrough that proves crucial. The power readings Dr. Martinez detected aren't just from computer systems. They're from a sophisticated underground transport infrastructure. The organization has been using abandoned mine networks, connecting them with modern engineering, to create an invisible highway system. But it's Tommy's insight that proves most valuable. His drawings, initially seen as simple childhood interpretations, turn out to be a key to understanding how the network operates. The singing ground he described isn't just about hidden entrances. It's about how the entire system communicates through subterranean vibrations. As federal teams begin coordinating with international authorities, Sarah realizes they've uncovered something beyond a criminal enterprise. They've exposed a shadow network that has operated undetected for decades, using military expertise for unthinkable purposes. But in doing so, they've also demonstrated the power of transformation, how trauma and pain can become tools for justice when guided by compassion and purpose. The evidence they've gathered will take months to process, but its impact is already clear. Dozens of children will be rescued, hundreds of families will find answers, an entire network of darkness will be brought into the light. And it all started with a dog who refused to let his combat trauma define him. As the sun rises over Eagle's Point, Sarah watches Shadow standing alert at the cave entrance. His powerful form is silhouetted against the dawn, a warrior transformed by love and purpose into something more, a guardian, a healer, a bridge between darkness and light. James approaches, his face reflecting the complex emotions of the moment. "You know what amazes me most?" he says quietly. "It's not just about the rescues or the evidence. It's about how you and Shadow have changed how we approach these cases. You've shown us that sometimes the deepest wounds can become the greatest gifts." Dr. Martinez is already coordinating with international teams, but she takes a moment to kneel beside Shadow. "What you've built here goes beyond search and rescue," she tells Sarah. "You've created a new model for healing, one that shows how trauma survivors, both human and canine, can become the most effective forces for positive change." The morning light strengthens, pushing back the shadows that have hidden so many secrets. Sarah clips on Shadow's tracking harness, knowing their work is far from over. But they're no longer just a wounded warrior and his handler. They've become catalysts for transformation, proof that the darkest experiences can become light when used in service of others. As they prepare to move to the next location, Sarah catches their reflection in the polished surface of a tactical vehicle. She sees not just a woman and her dog, but a testament to the power of purpose over pain, of love over fear, of light over darkness. They are living proof that healing isn't just about recovering from our wounds. It's about using them to help others find their way home. Shadow's ears prick forward, catching sounds that herald the beginning of another mission, but this time they carry with them something more powerful than tactical gear or technical expertise. They carry the hope of countless families, the strength of survivors, and the unshakable truth that even the deepest darkness cannot withstand the power of light when wielded by those who have learned to transform their pain into purpose. The International Task Force headquarters in Geneva hums with activity as Sarah and Shadow step off the private military transport. 3 months have passed since their discoveries at Eagle's Point, and what began as a local investigation has evolved into a global operation. Representatives from 32 countries fill the command center, each bringing new pieces to an expanding puzzle that grows more complex with each revelation. Director Jean-Pierre Dubois, head of Interpol's Crimes Against Children Division, greets them with evident respect. "What your team uncovered in Pine Valley," he says, studying Shadow with keen interest, "it's revolutionized how we approach these cases worldwide. But there's something new we need your help with." The briefing room falls silent as Dr. Martinez presents the latest findings. "We've identified a pattern in the psychological profiles of rescued children," she explains, pointing to a series of data points. "Many of them describe experiencing a unique form of comfort during their captivity, encounters with dogs that seem to be trying to help them." Shadow's ears prick forward at these words, his body language showing subtle signs of recognition that Sarah has learned to read. Colonel Richardson steps forward, spreading out a series of photographs. These are from military working dog training programs across multiple countries. Over the past decade, dozens of puppies have disappeared from these facilities, all showing early signs of exceptional ability. The revelation hits Sarah with stunning clarity. Shadow wasn't just a random military dog who happened to uncover this network. He was part of a larger story, one of many dogs who had resisted their intended programming, choosing instead to protect the vulnerable. James Cooper, who has joined them in Geneva as a key advisor, shares a new piece of information. "I've been interviewing other survivors," he says. "The dog that helped me escape, it matches the description of one that went missing from a Belgian training facility. These weren't strays. They were intended to be part of the operation, but something went wrong with the plan." Dr. Elena Petrova, a renowned animal behaviorist, projects a new series of brain scans. "We've been studying Shadow's cognitive patterns," she explains. "His trauma response isn't just from combat experience. There are indicators of early psychological resistance, a fundamental rejection of training that contradicted his natural protective instincts. The implications are staggering. The organization hadn't just been trafficking children, they'd been attempting to create a sophisticated system using specially trained dogs for control and containment. But they hadn't counted on the unbreakable bond between canines and their natural instinct to protect the innocent." Tommy Anderson's latest drawings are spread across one wall, each showing a different dog he remembered from his time in captivity. His child's perspective captures something the adults might have missed: the way these dogs would secretly share food with the children, create distractions during abuse, or simply offer comfort in moments of despair. Emily Chen, who has become an important voice in helping other rescued children heal, joins the briefing via video conference. "The dogs were like guardian angels," she says, her voice strong despite the painful memories. "They couldn't free us themselves, but they found ways to help us hold on to hope until rescue came." Shadow moves to the center of the room, his bearing reflecting both his military training and something more profound, a sense of purpose that transcends his trauma. Sarah watches as he approaches a world map marked with known facility locations, his behavior indicating recognition of a pattern that human analysts might have missed. Director Dubois leans forward, intrigued. "Your dog isn't just tracking scents or following tactical training," he observes. "He's demonstrating an understanding of the entire network's operational structure. This is unprecedented." Dr. Martinez brings up new satellite imagery. "We've been analyzing Shadow's search patterns against global terrain data. Look at this." The display shows a series of locations across multiple continents. He's not just finding individual sites. He's revealing how the entire system is connected. The next hours bring a flurry of revelations. Emily's father, applying his engineering expertise to the underground transport network, discovers that the system uses natural cave formations in ways that mirror ancient trade routes. These paths, hidden from modern surveillance, have allowed the organization to operate undetected for decades. But it's Tommy's mother, a child psychologist, who provides a crucial insight. "The dogs weren't just resisting their training," she explains, studying Shadow's interaction with the evidence. "They were creating their own underground railroad, a secret network of resistance within the very system meant to control them." Sarah thinks back to all their successful rescues, seeing them in a new light. Shadow hadn't just been finding lost children, he'd been systematically dismantling the organization that had tried to corrupt the sacred bond between dogs and humans. Each rescue was a step toward exposing a darker truth while demonstrating the triumph of compassion over cruelty. The international team begins coordinating simultaneous operations across multiple countries, but their approach has changed, influenced by what they've learned from Shadow. Instead of just tactical assaults, they're now employing methods that recognize the complex layers of resistance already in place, including the network of dogs who have been silently fighting back. As evening falls over Geneva, Sarah stands with Shadow on the balcony of the operations center. The city lights below mirror the stars above, reminding her of how far they've come from those first searches in Pine Valley's woods. They're no longer just a local search and rescue team. They've become part of a global movement to transform how the world responds to evil. James joins them, his face reflecting the complex emotions of the moment. "You know what's remarkable?" he says, watching shadows scan the horizon. "These dogs didn't just resist becoming weapons, they turned their training into a tool for salvation. They showed us that the deepest darkness can become light in the hands of those who choose love over fear." Dr. Martinez emerges from the command center with new intelligence. More facilities have been identified, more children need rescue, more dogs are waiting to be freed from their intended programming. But now they're not working alone. Their team has grown to include experts from every field, survivors turned, advocates, and a growing network of support that spans the globe. Shadow's ears prick forward at the sound of approaching aircraft. More teams arriving from different countries, each bringing their own piece of the puzzle. Sarah watches her partner stand alert, his powerful form silhouetted against the evening sky. He's no longer the traumatized military dog she first met, and she's no longer the woman haunted by her brother's disappearance. They've become something more, catalysts for a transformation that is changing how the world confronts its darkest evils. As they prepare for the next phase of operations, Sarah realizes that their story has evolved beyond personal healing. They've demonstrated that trauma, when transformed by love and purpose, can become a force for global change. Shadow hasn't just helped rescue lost children. He's shown that even the deepest wounds can become gifts when used in service of others. The night deepens over Geneva, but darkness no longer holds any fear for them. They've learned that light shines brightest in the darkest places, and that healing often begins when we help others find their way home. Shadow stands ready, his bearing that of a warrior who has transcended his trauma to become something extraordinary. A guardian of the lost, a symbol of resistance, and living proof that love is stronger than any force that tries to corrupt it. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, new rescues, new opportunities to transform darkness into light. But tonight, as Sarah watches Shadow's alert form against the starlit sky, she knows they're exactly where they're meant to be. At the heart of a movement that proves when we choose to transform our pain into purpose, we create ripples of hope that touch lives across the world. Deep in the Brazilian rainforest, Shadow leads an international rescue team through terrain that would confound conventional tracking methods. 6 months have passed since their revelations in Geneva, and their mission has evolved in ways no one could have predicted. The dense canopy above filters moonlight into ghostly patterns, but Shadow moves with unwavering certainty, following signs that only he can detect. Colonel Richardson monitors their progress from a mobile command center, coordinating with similar operations happening simultaneously across 3 continents. What began as a search and rescue operation has transformed into a global initiative dubbed Project Guardian, a revolutionary approach to combating trafficking networks by combining military expertise, canine intelligence, and survivor insights. Movement detected in Sector 7. Dr. Martinez's voice crackles through their tactical communications. Thermal imaging shows multiple signatures matching the pattern Shadow identified. The Belgian Malinois' ears prick forward, confirming her analysis. He's been tracking these particular heat signatures for days, recognizing them as matching the unique thermal patterns of underground facilities. Sarah adjusts her specialized gear, equipment designed based on their experiences over the past months. Each piece incorporates lessons learned from Shadow's discoveries, from frequency modulators that detect the singing ground Tommy first described, to biosensors that monitor the subtle changes in canine behavior that often precede major breakthroughs. The team includes faces both familiar and new. James Cooper moves with the confidence of a seasoned operative, his past trauma transformed into expertise that helps other survivors. Emily Chen's father has developed revolutionary mapping technology that combines geological data with Shadow's documented search patterns. But it's their newest team member who represents the most remarkable evolution in their approach. Luna, a young German shepherd rescued from one of the facilities they raided in Eastern Europe, works in perfect synchronization with Shadow. She represents their greatest breakthrough, proof that dogs intended for the organization's purposes can be rehabilitated and turned into powerful allies in the fight against trafficking. The evidence they've gathered over months of operations tells an extraordinary story. The organization hadn't just been training dogs for control, they'd been attempting to create an automated security system using canine intelligence. But they'd failed to understand a fundamental truth that Sarah and Shadow had discovered: the unbreakable bond between dogs and their natural instinct to protect the innocent. Dr. Elena Petrova's research has revealed something remarkable about this bond. The dogs in the program didn't just resist their training. They developed sophisticated methods of communication with their intended captives. Through subtle behaviors and signals, they created a hidden language of hope, helping children maintain their spirit until rescue could arrive. Tommy Anderson's recent artwork, displayed in a growing exhibition that travels with their mobile command center, captures this secret language in ways that have helped countless survivors begin their healing journey. His childlike perspective reveals the profound truth that even in the darkest places, light finds ways to shine through. Shadow suddenly freezes, his body language signaling the proximity of their target. The team moves into position as Sarah processes what her partner is telling her. The facility ahead is larger than their previous discoveries, but there's something else, a subtle shift in Shadow's behavior that she's learned to read like a book. The breach is swift and precise, utilizing techniques perfected over months of similar operations. But what they find inside exceeds all expectations. Beyond the sophisticated security systems and underground chambers lies evidence of something they've long suspected but never confirmed: the heart of the organization's dog training program. Dr. Martinez's quick analysis of the computer systems reveals the full scope of their discovery. This isn't just another facility, her voice tight with controlled emotion. This is where it all began. The original training protocols, the genetic screening programs, everything. But it's what they find in the deeper chambers that transforms their understanding completely. A hidden archive reveals decades of research into canine intelligence and loyalty. The organization had spent years studying military working dogs, trying to understand why some animals could never be turned away from their protective instincts. Shadow moves through the space with profound purpose, leading them to a section that answers questions that have haunted them for months. The wall of the main chamber holds photographs, dozens of dogs who, like Shadow, had resisted their intended programming. Each image tells a story of quiet rebellion, of animals who chose to protect rather than control. Luna's reaction to these discoveries proves equally revealing. Her behavior suggests recognition, not of the place itself, but of the story it tells. She and Shadow work in tandem, systematically identifying evidence that will help locate and rescue more dogs from the program. As the team secures the facility and begins processing evidence, Sarah watches Shadow interact with a group of recently rescued children. His gentle presence helps them feel safe enough to share crucial information about other facilities. It's a scene that would have seemed impossible months ago. A former military dog, once deemed too traumatized for service, now leading a revolution in how the world responds to trafficking. Emily Chen, connecting via secure video link from her new role as a youth advocate, offers an insight that captures the profound nature of their discovery. These dogs didn't just resist becoming weapons, she explains, watching Shadow comfort the rescued children. They created their own underground resistance. They turned their training into a tool for salvation. The International Task Force begins coordinating immediate operations based on the new intelligence, but their approach has evolved, shaped by everything they've learned from Shadow and Luna. Each raid now includes rehabilitated dogs, trauma-informed care specialists, and survivors who have chosen to transform their experience into expertise. Director Dubois, overseeing operations from Geneva, shares breakthrough news. The evidence they've uncovered has led to the identification of key organization leaders. More importantly, it has revealed the existence of a vast network of silent allies, dogs placed in facilities across the world who have been quietly working to protect and comfort captive children. As dawn breaks over the rainforest, Sarah stands with Shadow at the entrance of the facility. The rising sun paints the sky in colors that seem to celebrate their discoveries. They're no longer just a search and rescue team. They've become catalysts for a global transformation in how humanity partners with dogs to combat evil. James approaches, his face reflecting the weight of their discoveries. "You know what's most remarkable?" he asks, watching Luna guide a group of tactical teams to another hidden entrance. These dogs didn't just save individuals. They've shown us a new way to fight darkness. They've proven that love is stronger than any system of control. Dr. Martinez emerges from the command center with updated statistics. Their operation has led to the rescue of hundreds of children and the identification of dozens of facilities. But more importantly, it has sparked a revolution in how organizations worldwide approach the fight against trafficking. Shadow's ears prick forward at the sound of approaching helicopters, more teams arriving to help process their discoveries. Sarah watches her partner stand alert, his powerful form silhouetted against the rising sun. He's no longer defined by his trauma, and she's no longer haunted by unanswered questions. They've become something more, pioneers of a movement that proves when we transform our pain into purpose, we create change that ripples across the world. As they prepare to move to the next location, Sarah realizes their story has evolved beyond personal healing or even organizational change. They've demonstrated that the deepest wounds, when transformed by love and purpose, can become the most powerful tools for global transformation. Shadow hasn't just helped rescue lost children. He's shown that the path to healing often lies in helping others find their way home. The morning light strengthens, pushing back the shadows that have hidden so many secrets. But darkness holds no fear for them now. They've learned that light shines brightest in the darkest places, and that true healing begins when we use our experiences to illuminate the way for others. Shadow stands ready, his bearing that of a warrior who has transcended his trauma to become something extraordinary, a guardian of the lost, a symbol of resistance, and living proof that love will always find a way to shine through. 1 year after their first discovery in Blackridge Forest, Sarah stands before a packed auditorium at the United Nations headquarters in New York. Behind her, a massive screen displays images that tell a story of transformation. Shadow leading rescue operations across continents, Luna training new canine teams, children being reunited with their families. But it's the latest breakthrough that has brought them here today. Project Guardian isn't just about rescue anymore, Sarah explains to the assembled international delegates. It's about prevention, healing, and creating a new model of global response to trafficking. Shadow sits alertly beside her, his presence a testament to how far they've come from those first uncertain days in Pine Valley. Dr. Martinez steps forward to present the data that has stunned the international community. The integration of military working dogs with trauma-informed care has resulted in a 300% increase in successful interventions, she reports. But more importantly, we're seeing unprecedented rates of recovery among rescued children, thanks to the therapeutic bonds they form with our canine teams. The evidence is impossible to ignore. On the screen, footage shows Shadow and Luna working with their expanding network of rehabilitated military dogs. Each animal brings unique skills to the program. Some excel at detection, others at therapy, but all share an unshakable commitment to protecting the vulnerable. James Cooper, now Director of Survivor Advocacy for Project Guardian, shares a revelation that captures the heart of their evolution. We've discovered that the organization's attempt to create a controlled canine security system had an unintended consequence, he explains. They inadvertently created a network of resistance. Every dog they tried to program became a potential ally in the fight against trafficking. Tommy Anderson, no longer the frightened child from the woods, but a poised young advocate, presents his latest contribution to the program. His ability to understand and document the subtle ways dogs communicate has led to breakthrough training protocols. The dogs aren't just finding hidden places, he explains, his voice strong with purpose. They're teaching us new ways to listen, to understand, to heal. The presentation shifts to live feeds from current operations. In the mountains of Peru, a team of rehabilitated military dogs leads local authorities to a previously unknown facility. In the urban sprawl of Bangkok, another team provides crucial support to traumatized survivors. Each operation builds on what they've learned from Shadow's original discoveries. Emily Chen, connecting remotely from her new role at a children's advocacy center, shares how their approach has revolutionized trauma recovery. The dogs don't just rescue us physically, she explains, her quiet voice carrying immense authority. They show us that our darkest experiences can become a source of light for others. Dr. Elena Petrova presents groundbreaking research on the neurological impact of their program. Brain scans show remarkable patterns of healing in children who work with the rehabilitated dogs. We're seeing trauma transform into resilience, she explains. The very qualities that helped these dogs resist their intended programming are now helping children rebuild their lives. But it's the next phase of Project Guardian that captures the world's attention. Sarah reveals plans for a global network of training centers, each designed to rehabilitate both military dogs and trafficking survivors. These aren't just facilities, she explains. They're sanctuaries of transformation, where trauma becomes strength and pain becomes purpose. The program has already produced remarkable results. Luna, once a victim of the organization's breeding program, now leads teams in teaching other rescued dogs how to use their military training for healing. Shadow's methods have been adopted by law enforcement agencies worldwide, revolutionizing how they approach trafficking investigations. Colonel Richardson presents tactical data that demonstrates the program's strategic impact. We're not just dismantling criminal networks, he explains. We're creating a new paradigm of protection, one that combines military precision with the innate compassion of these extraordinary animals. The evidence room from their first discovery in Pine Valley has been recreated as a traveling exhibition, touring the world to educate communities about trafficking prevention. But it's not the dark details that draw people. It's the stories of transformation, the countless examples of how trauma can become a tool for healing when guided by love and purpose. As Sarah watches Shadow interact with a group of young survivors after the presentation, she sees the profound truth they've uncovered. Each child approaches him differently, some with hesitation, others with immediate trust, but all find in him a reflection of their own capacity to transform pain into strength. Director Dubois announces the expansion of Project Guardian to include specialized training for law enforcement worldwide. What began as a local search and rescue operation has become a model for global change, he declares. These dogs aren't just finding the lost. They're showing us new ways to fight darkness with light. The afternoon brings a special ceremony that touches everyone present. Dozens of rehabilitated military dogs, each with their own story of resistance and transformation, are officially inducted into Project Guardian. Among them is a young Belgian Malinois who shows the same extraordinary qualities they first recognized. In Shadow, an unshakable commitment to protecting the innocent. Emily's father, whose engineering expertise helped map the underground network, presents new technology that builds on everything they've learned. We're not just finding hidden places, he explains. We're creating systems that make it impossible for these organizations to operate in shadows. But it's Tommy's mother, speaking from her experience as a child psychologist, who captures the deeper significance of their work. These dogs aren't just rescuing children from physical captivity, she explains. They're showing us that the path to healing often lies in helping others find their way home. As evening falls over New York, Sarah stands with Shadow on the UN building's observation deck. The city lights below mirror the stars above, a reminder of how far they've come from those first searches in Blackridge Forest. They're no longer just a search and rescue team. They've become catalysts for a global movement that proves love is stronger than any force that tries to corrupt it. James joins them, his face reflecting the profound nature of their journey. You know what's most remarkable? He asks, watching Luna work with a group of new canine recruits below. These dogs didn't just overcome their trauma. They showed us that our deepest wounds can become our greatest gifts to the world. Dr. Martinez approaches with news of another breakthrough. More facilities have been identified, more children await rescue, more dogs are ready to join their cause. But now they're not working alone. Their team has grown into a worldwide network of experts, survivors and advocates, all united by the understanding that healing multiplies when we help others find their way from darkness to light. Shadow's ears prick forward at the sound of Evening traffic, the rhythm of a city that never sleeps, a world that needs their continued vigilance. Sarah watches her partner stand alert, his powerful form silhouetted against the twilight sky. He's no longer the traumatized military dog she first met, and she's no longer the woman haunted by unanswered questions. They've become something more, pioneers of a movement that proves when we transform our pain into purpose, we create change that ripples across generations. As they prepare for their next mission, Sarah realizes their story has evolved beyond personal healing or organizational change. They've demonstrated that the deepest wounds, when transformed by love and purpose, can become the most powerful tools for global transformation. Shadow hasn't just helped rescue lost children, he's shown that true healing begins when we use our experiences to light the way for others. The night deepens over Manhattan, but darkness holds no fear for them now. They've learned that light shines brightest in the darkest places, and that every scar can become a beacon of hope when used in service of others. Shadow stands ready, his bearing that of a warrior who has transcended his trauma to become something extraordinary. A guardian of the lost, a symbol of resistance, and living proof that love will always find a way to shine through the darkest night. 18 months after that first fateful discovery in Blackridge Forest, Sarah and Shadow stand at the entrance of Pine Valley's newest facility, the International Center for Canine-Assisted Healing and Recovery. The modern building rises from the same woods where their journey began, its innovative design incorporating elements suggested by both survivors and rehabilitated military dogs. Natural light floods through strategic skylights, while underground training areas help rescue dogs overcome their trauma through carefully structured exposure therapy. Today marks a special milestone, the graduation of their first full class of handler canine teams. 20 pairs of rehabilitated military dogs and survivors turned handlers prepare to join Project Guardian's global mission. Among them stands Emily Chen, now a poised teenager, working alongside Luna's first puppy, a Belgian Malinois named Hope, who carries her mother's extraordinary instincts for healing and protection. Dr. Martinez surveys the gathering with evident pride. When we first started, she reflects, we thought we were building a search and rescue program. What we've actually created is a new paradigm of healing, one that proves trauma can become a source of extraordinary strength when guided by love and purpose. The evidence of their success fills every corner of the facility. The main hall displays photographs of successful interventions worldwide, children rescued, families reunited, trafficking networks dismantled. But it's the stories behind these images that truly capture the transformation they've achieved. James Cooper, leading a briefing for new team members, shares their latest breakthrough. We've discovered something remarkable about how these dogs process trauma, he explains. They don't just overcome their past. They actively use their experiences to identify and protect others in danger. It's as if their wounds become a kind of radar for those who need help most. Tommy Anderson, now apprenticing with the program's veterinary team, has developed innovative methods for assessing rescued dogs. His childhood insight about the singing ground has evolved into sophisticated protocols for detecting underground facilities. Every dog has a unique way of communicating what they've witnessed, he explains. Our job isn't to train them, it's to learn their language. The facility's research wing buzzes with activity as Dr. Elena Petrova presents groundbreaking findings. Brain scans of both rescued dogs and survivors show remarkable patterns of neural rewiring when they work together. "We're seeing the literal transformation of trauma into strength," she reports. "The same pathways that once carried pain now conduct healing." Shadow leads Sarah through the training areas where new teams practice advanced search and rescue techniques. But these aren't just military drills. They're carefully crafted exercises that help both dogs and handlers transform their traumatic experiences into life-saving skills. Each scenario is designed to build confidence, trust, and the unshakable bond that makes their work possible. Colonel Richardson, overseeing tactical operations from the facility's command center, shares statistics that validate their approach. Project Guardian teams have achieved a success rate 3 times higher than conventional methods, he reports. But more importantly, we're seeing long-term healing in both the rescuers and the rescued. The afternoon brings a special ceremony that touches everyone present. The facility's memorial garden, designed with input from survivors and handlers alike, honors both the human and canine heroes who've contributed to their mission. At its center stands a sculpture of a child and dog, their forms merging to symbolize the healing power of unconditional love. Emily's father, who helped design the facility's innovative security systems, explains how they've integrated lessons from every rescue. "We're not just building walls and windows," he says. "We're creating spaces that promote healing, that make both dogs and humans feel safe enough to transform their pain into purpose." Director Dubois, who has flown in from Geneva for the graduation, announces the program's latest expansion. 10 new facilities will open across 5 continents in the next year, he reveals. Each one built on the model you've created here, where trauma becomes training and survival becomes strength. But it's the evening's most powerful moment that truly captures their evolution. Sarah watches as Shadow works with a newly rescued military dog, a German shepherd found in circumstances painfully similar to his own. The younger dog, initially defensive and traumatized, gradually responds to Shadow's calm presence. It's a vivid demonstration of how healing multiplies when we help others find their way from darkness to light. Tommy's mother, now heading the facility's family support program, observes the interaction with professional insight. "What we're witnessing isn't just rehabilitation," she explains. "It's the creation of a new kind of healing, one that recognizes trauma as a potential source of extraordinary empathy and strength." The graduation ceremony itself becomes a powerful testament to their journey. Each handler canine team presents a demonstration of their skills, but these aren't just displays of technical proficiency. They're proof that the deepest wounds can become the greatest gifts when transformed by love and purpose. Luna leads her daughter Hope through an advanced detection exercise, showing how their natural protective instincts have been enhanced rather than suppressed by their training. The younger dog exhibits the same extraordinary awareness that made her mother such a powerful ally in their early discoveries. Dr. Martinez presents research showing how their program has revolutionized trauma recovery worldwide. The bond between these dogs and their handlers creates a unique healing environment, she explains. It's a space where past pain becomes future purpose, where survival becomes strength. As evening approaches, Sarah stands with Shadow in the facility's observation tower, watching the sunset paint the sky in colors that seem to celebrate their journey. They're no longer just a search and rescue team. They've become pioneers. of a movement that proves love is stronger than any force that tries to corrupt it. James joins them, his face reflecting the profound nature of their achievement. "You know what amazes me most?" he asks, watching the new teams prepare for their first assignments. "We didn't just create a program, we proved that the very things meant to break us can become the tools that help us heal others." The night deepens, but the facility remains alive with purpose. In the training areas, new teams practice their skills. In the recovery wings, rescued dogs and children find comfort in each other's presence. In the research labs, scientists study the remarkable ways trauma can be transformed into healing power. Shadow's ears prick forward at the sound of an incoming alert, another rescue mission beginning somewhere in the world. Sarah watches her partner stand ready, his powerful form silhouetted against the starlit sky. He's no longer defined by his trauma, and she's no longer haunted by unanswered questions. They've become something more, living proof that when we choose to transform our pain into purpose, we create light that touches countless lives. As they prepare to join the next mission, Sarah realizes their story has become something greater than personal healing or organizational success. They've demonstrated that the deepest wounds, when guided by love and purpose, can become the most powerful forces for positive change in the world. The stars shine brightly over Pine Valley, but darkness holds no fear for them now. They've learned that light shines brightest in the darkest places, and that every scar can become a beacon of hope when used in service of others. Shadow stands ready, his bearing that of a warrior who has transcended his trauma to become something extraordinary, a guardian of the lost, a symbol of resistance, and living proof that love will always find a way to shine through. Their journey, which began with a child's cry in the darkness and a dog's unwavering courage, has blossomed into a global movement of healing and hope. Together, they've shown that the path to recovery often lies in helping others find their way home, and that even the deepest darkness cannot withstand the power of light when wielded by those who have learned to transform their pain into purpose. 3 years to the day after Tommy Anderson was found in Blackridge Forest, Sarah stands at the heart of the Global Summit for Trafficking Prevention and Recovery. The United Nations Assembly Hall buzzes with anticipation as delegates from over 150 countries gather to witness something unprecedented: the launch of the International Coalition for Canine-Assisted Liberation and Healing, ICALH, a groundbreaking initiative that will transform how the world responds to human trafficking. Shadow, his coat now touched with distinguished silver, maintains his characteristic alertness beside her. Though years have passed since their first discovery, his dedication to their mission remains unwavering. Today, they're not just presenting results. They're unveiling a vision that will reshape the future of global rescue operations. Dr. Martinez takes the podium to share staggering statistics. In the past 3 years, Project Guardian's methods have led to the rescue of over 3,000 children and the rehabilitation of more than 500 military working dogs, she reports. But our most significant achievement isn't in the numbers. It's in the transformation we're seeing in both survivors and rescuers. The evidence fills massive screens behind her, before and after brain scans, showing remarkable patterns of healing, success rates that defy conventional expectations, and testimonials from survivors who have become leaders in the fight against trafficking. Each piece of data tells a story of trauma transformed into triumph, Emily Chen, addressing the assembly via holographic projection from a current operation in Southeast Asia, demonstrates how their methods have evolved. "We're not just finding and rescuing victims anymore," she explains, as Luna and Hope work. "With their teams in the background, we're creating a new paradigm where survivors become the most effective force against trafficking networks." The presentation shifts to live feeds from ICALH centers worldwide. In Brazil, former victims work alongside rehabilitated military dogs to patrol vulnerable communities. In Eastern Europe, survivor-led teams conduct preventive operations that have reduced trafficking rates by 60%. In Africa, mobile units combine local knowledge with canine expertise to protect remote villages. Tommy Anderson, now a respected authority on canine-assisted trauma recovery, presents groundbreaking research on the unique communication methods developed between survivors and their dog partners. "What we're seeing isn't just rehabilitation," he explains. "It's the emergence of a new kind of healing relationship where shared trauma becomes a foundation for extraordinary connection and capability." James Cooper reveals how their tactical approach has revolutionized international law enforcement. By integrating survivor insights with canine intelligence, he demonstrates, we're not just responding to trafficking, we're predicting and preventing it. Every rescued child and rehabilitated dog becomes a potential guardian against future crimes. The assembly watches in amazement as Dr. Elena Petrova presents their latest scientific breakthrough. "We've discovered that the neurological changes in both children and dogs who go through our program create what we call resilience networks. Enhanced neural pathways that not only facilitate healing, but actually transform trauma into increased capacity for empathy and protection." Colonel Richardson shares tactical innovations that have emerged from their work. "The combination of military precision with trauma-informed care has created something unprecedented," he explains. "Our teams don't just conduct rescues. They create environments where healing begins the moment contact is made." But it's the next phase of their initiative that captures the world's attention. Sarah unveils plans for a global network of sanctuary cities, communities specifically, designed to prevent trafficking through a combination of survivor wisdom, canine protection, and innovative social support systems. "These aren't just safe houses," she explains, as architectural renderings appear on screen. "They're incubators of transformation, where the expertise of survivors combines with the protective instincts of our canine partners to create spaces where vulnerability becomes strength." The afternoon brings a powerful demonstration of their evolution. Luna, Shadow, and Hope work together to show how their natural protective instincts have been enhanced rather than suppressed by their training. Their synchronized movements demonstrate something beyond mere skill, a deep understanding of how to use their experiences to protect others. Director Dubois announces unprecedented international cooperation. What began as a local search and rescue operation has become a model for global change, he declares. "These dogs and their handlers aren't just finding the lost. They're showing us new ways to prevent people from becoming lost in the first place." The summit's most moving moment comes when survivors from different programs worldwide share their stories. Each narrative demonstrates how working with rehabilitated military dogs has transformed their healing journey. "These animals don't just help us feel safe," one young woman explains. "They show us that our worst experiences can become our greatest source of strength. Dr. Martinez presents research showing how their approach has revolutionized trauma recovery across disciplines. The bond between these dogs and their handlers creates something we've never seen before, she explains. It's a space where past pain becomes future purpose, where survival becomes strength, and where trauma becomes a tool for profound positive change. As evening approaches, Sarah stands with Shadow in the UN building's meditation garden. The setting sun paints the sky in colors that seem to celebrate their journey. They're no longer just a search and rescue team. They've become catalysts for a global transformation in how humanity responds to its darkest challenges. James joins them, his face reflecting the profound nature of their achievement. "You know what's most remarkable?" he asks, watching new teams prepare for deployment. "We didn't just create a program. We proved that the very experiences meant to break us can become the tools that help us heal the world." Shadow's ears prick forward at the sound of incoming helicopters, more teams arriving for advanced training. Sarah watches her partner stand ready, his powerful form silhouetted against the twilight sky. He's no longer defined by his trauma, and she's no longer haunted by unanswered questions. They've become something more, living proof that when we choose to transform our pain into purpose, we create light that touches countless lives. The night deepens over New York, but darkness holds no fear for them now. They've learned that light shines brightest in the darkest places, and that every scar can become a beacon of hope when used in service of others. Shadow stands ready, his bearing that of a warrior who has transcended his trauma to become something extraordinary, a guardian of the lost, a symbol of resistance, and living proof that love will always find a way to shine through. Their journey, which began with a child's cry in the darkness and a dog's unwavering courage, has blossomed into a global movement of healing and hope. Together, they've shown that the path to recovery often lies in helping others find their way home, and that even the deepest darkness cannot withstand the power of light when wielded by those who have learned to transform their pain into purpose. As the stars emerge over Manhattan, Sarah realizes that their story has become something greater than personal healing or organizational success. They've demonstrated that the deepest wounds, when guided by love and purpose, can become the most powerful forces for positive change in the world. The iCult initiative will continue to grow, spreading hope and transformation across continents. But its true power lies not in its scale or resources, but in the simple truth it represents, that every experience, no matter how painful, can become a gift when used to light the way for others. Shadow leads the way as they prepare to join their next mission. His steps are sure and strong, carrying with him the wisdom of countless rescues and the unwavering dedication to protecting the vulnerable. He is living proof that trauma does not have to define us, that with love, purpose, and the courage to help others, we can transform our darkest moments into beacons of hope that light the way home for countless others. As they disappear into the gathering dusk, their story continues to inspire others around the world. For in their journey from wounded survivors to global changemakers, they have shown that true healing is not just about recovering from our past. It's about using our experiences to create a future where light always finds a way to shine through the darkness. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so You don't miss any upload from us.